Hello everyone, a pleasant day to read. Today I'm starting reading this book by Gauranga. And this is The Art of Focus, 45 stories to uplift the mind and transform the heart. So I'll be taking a parallel notes which to refer in the near future. So The Art of Focus by Gauranga. Let me write. Let's start the first chapter. It's a very nice book we have here. So, the first chapter, introduction, is there. Let me in it together, human quality association. And this book, to the three people who changed my life forever, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He is a spiritual master, and His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami Maharaj, his spiritual mentor. So, this Gauranga Prabhu has dedicated this book to these three people, I think. So let's see. The introduction. I have been a monk for over 30 years. When I tell people I am a monk, the image they seem to conjure up is that of a man of a cloth who meditates in tranquility for hours on end. In part, they are correct. I do meditate for over 2 hours daily, chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with focused attention. However, the other 22 hours are filled with a different flavor of tranquility. They are filled with being involved in a plethora of selfless services that are spiritually inspired. For one of these services, I travel the world. Speaking about the Vedic literatures, I have studied intensively and based my life on. Specifically, the three main literatures, including the famous Bhagavad Gita as it is, heralded as the main source of wisdom for Hindus globally, and from which most lessons of these books are derived. It is sometimes cited as the textbook of God. The second book is the Srimad Bhagavatam, an extensive 18,000 verse treatise of God by Veda Vyasa, translated into English by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. This book is sometimes cited as the biography of God. The third book is the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the life and teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, a 15th century incarnation of God. This book is sometimes cited as the Diary of God. Each book has its place in society, each adding layers of truth about the Supreme, just as the child is taught about the rules of mathematics as they advance from one grade to another. From my experience speaking around the world, I have realized that for many it is easier to absorb the truths of literatures like the Bhagavad Gita as it is when it is supplemented by stories. Stories give a context and application to truth. Stories help us imagine ourselves in the characters' roles and apply the lesson that they are learning into our own lives. It is easier to learn the lesson of being grateful in the context of the story rather than be told to simply be grateful. There is no doubt about the appeal of ancient Vedic heavyweight literatures such as Mahabharata and the Ramayana. They are so popular because they teach universal truths through stories unparalleled in their excitement, engagement, and depth. The Art of Focus is the second book in the three-part series. It takes the same principle of telling enamoring cultural stories and bringing to light universal truths that are found within them. As stated, I have primarily used the Bhagavad Gita as it is to bring out the lessons of these stories. The main topics include understanding the spiritual nature of the human condition, Atma, the components of the world around us, Prakriti, the influential time has on our life, Kala, how our actions in the past created our present, and how our present actions can affect our future karma, and the influence of the supreme control over everything and everyone, Ishvara. This book is for those keen to build focus as we live in the world replete with distractions. Distractions not just in the form of electronic gadgets, but in the variety of entertainment and the plethora of lifestyles options available in the modern age. Hence, it's not surprising that a recent research reported that the human attention span is less than that of a goldfish at 9 seconds. Building focus is the first step to leading a life based on purpose. Focus helps build discipline, willpower, and persistence to pursue our goals consistently and accomplish life's mission assiduously. The COVID 19 pandemic has transformed the way we look at life and how we prioritize the various aspects of life. As the world recoups and gathers strength after experiencing multiple waves of the pandemic, building focus is a prerequisite to staying the course in our life's journey to pursue eco friendly growth and development while maintaining holistic well being, physical, mental, and spiritual. What makes this book different is that the everlasting principles explaining the stories are based on authentic, timeless Vedic wisdom. The address issues at the level far beyond the popular and well trodden path of self help. These principles are also eternal and time tested and can enrich our lives if we follow them sincerely. I do not claim to be the author of these ideas. Indeed, these ideas originate in Krishna himself and have been taught by several spiritual teachers like His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, ISKCON. To those committed to understanding him in succession, I am simply an instrument to help you find relevance, utility, and joyful transformation through these topics and do my utmost to show you how they can be applied to the real world. So that's the introduction. Let's go to the chapter number 1. In it together. In it together, the Human Quality Association. Harish was a trained software engineer who worked with a leading IT product multinational company in Bangalore. He lived in plush villa nestled between two lakes and surrounded by greenery. He was an avid spiritual seeker and a part of a group that got together to discuss spiritual topics under a mentor. Harish, who used to be an active participant in the group meetings, had recently stopped participating in them without notice. After a few weeks, on one very cold night, Mohan, the leader of the group, decided to visit Harish. Mohan found Harish at home, alone, seated in front of the fireplace where a bright fire burned. Initially reluctant but out of regard, Harish walked up to the door and welcomed Mohan inside. They smiled at each other and exchanged pleasantries. There was a loud silence for a while. The sound of singing insects like cicadas, crickets, grasshoppers, and katydids filled the atmosphere, adding to the feelings of discomfort in Harish. Mohan was in two minds whether to moot a conversation or wait for Harish to initiate it. The two men watched the dancing flames around the logs. The flames crackled in the fireplace. The silence continued for a few more minutes. Then Mohan, without saying a word, diverted Harish's attention. He stood up, examined the logs under the fire, and with a pair of tongs, latched onto one that glowed the brightest of all. He removed it from the fire and kept it aside. Smiling at Harish, Mohan returned to his seat. Harish was paying attention to Mohan's actions and was keen to know why he did what he did and what was going to happen next. Before long, the flame on the alone log subsided until there was only a momentary glow. Shortly, the fire went out. Within minutes, what was previously bright, lit, and radiating heat became nothing more than a black and dead piece of wood. The eerie silence continued as they saw the dead piece of the wood remain isolated from the bright fire, radiating heat and providing warmth on that cold night. The gentleman continued to look at the flames and the isolated log alternately. In a while, Mohan got up. With tongs in his right hand, he picked up the isolated piece of wood, apparently of no use, and placed it right back where it was in the middle of the fire. Right away, it rekindled, fueled by the light and the heat of the burning logs around. In deep thought, Harish looked at Mohan. They smiled at each other. Not a single word was exchanged. As Mohan began to walk to the door, Harish joined him. As they reached the door, Harish tapped on Mohan's shoulder and said, "Thank you for your visit. More importantly, thank you for your beautiful lesson." I will return to the group soon. With a smile, Mohan hugged him and said, "Thank you, see you soon." The host did goodbye to the leader and returned to the fireplace, feeling relieved and comforted by the leader's inspiration. Let's understand the importance of association and being in a group of good people or sadhu sangha. In his essay titled A Deliberation on the Methodology of Sadhu Sangha, the great Vaishnava reformer Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote, "The quartz crystal assumes the color of any object in its proximity, regardless of the hue of that object. It's important to choose the people we associate with. There are two criteria suggested: values and gravitas. The first quality you want to look for is values. The values that they uphold should be those of morality and divinity. We should seek people whose values resonate with ours accordingly. The second criterion, gravitas, refers to having greater skill, cognitive ability, experience, or a talent in areas that we are working on. This could be behavioral or technical. Not only are they better in this area, but they are also confident enough to not tear you down to make themselves look better or even feel better. Choosing such people will inspire you in the journey of self-discovery. It's important to realize that being the smartest person in the room is gratifying to the ego, but it is not conducive to our personal and professional growth." The great Acharya of the Bhakti movement, Srila Narottama Das Thakur, lamented in song Gora Pahun or Akshepa that when one deviates from pure consciousness of Krishna, one becomes entangled in material activities. Satsanga chari kainuvasa te villasa te karane lagino ye karma bandha bhansa. Avoiding the association of saintly persons, I sported merely in the company of the materialistic rascals. For that reason, I have become strung up in the noose of my own fruitive activities. Let's look at the flip side of the bad association and what we should do, what we should avoid. Here is a lesson from the Mahabharata. Dhritarashtra, because of his attachment to Duryodhana and that association, acted in the most abominable and sinful way, and all of his spiritual principles were compromised. No matter how great you are, if you choose bad associates, you will become abominable in the eyes of God. Who are we in comparison to Dhritarashtra? Sometimes we think that Dhritarashtra was such an evil man, but actually he was a descendant of the Kuru dynasty, the eldest of the three brothers and the factually the son of the Veda Vyas, which means he was directly the son of the literary incarnation of God. And what is the type of high birth we have? And that Dhritarashtra was spoon-fed and trained by Bhishma himself. Dhritarashtra had the best birth from the best family. He was trained by the legendary teacher. He had only one defect. He was attached to the association of somebody who was very greedy for power and could not control his mind and senses. Going back to the story and the analogy of the logs elicited by the leader, each member in the group helps the other. There is a positive give and take, one that helps each one in the group makes progress. Just as the logs of the wood take fire and heat from the rest while making their own contribution, it's worth reminding the group members that they are a part of the flame. It's key to recall that in unison, we are all responsible for keeping each other's flame burning. More than that, to sustain the fire for a long time, we must promote union among the favorable groups so that the fire is relatively strong, effective, and lasting. A group is also a family. There are times when incidents cause us to drift apart, but we need to look at why we came together, the higher purpose. It doesn't matter if we are, at times, bothered by unfortunate quarrels and misunderstandings. What matters is that we remain connected. Let's focus on learning and drawing inspiration from one another to keep the flame burning bright. Very good lesson. Very, very nice chapter. Some of the points which I remember, I can write it down. I'll just recall it. I'll just go through it. In it together. This is the first chapter. In it together.